Okay. All right, Bunny. I think you're got presentation mode, so you can just bring on whatever you need.
Okay, I can the slide.
Yep, I see slide. I see your desktop, but it should be fine.
Okay, so it shows the slide. Okay, I wasn't sure because half of it's hidden at the moment for me.
Cool. All right. Yeah, and yeah, you have extra 2 minutes, but that's cool. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope everyone can hear me okay and whatnot. So.
Yeah, you're fine.
Right, my own little screen there. There we go. That's better.
Right,
okay, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Yep. So I'm going to be talking about trends in the visual novel market, or how I stopped worrying and learned to love Orwell. So we'll be covering the differences in the EVN, JVN market, looking at data about how you can understand your audience, what they want, what factors in when they want to choose to buy VN or not, and how the market's changing over time. So the presentation is quite short, so there's not much time to go into an awful lot of depth, but this is just sort of a taste of the kind of thing you can do with it when you play around with some data. Okay, so why should you listen to me? I've got an MSc in artificial intelligence, so covering also statistics stuff and big data and all that. I've worked in the industry for around 8 years now, mostly working on mobile platforms and whatnot, mobile phone games, things like that, but also working with customer data. I've been a VN's fan for around about 5 years now, and I got to know the community through I was the main mod on visual novels for a couple of years. Okay, that's the first thing before we can analyze anything. So this is VNDB, for anyone who isn't familiar with it. It's a fan-run site that catalogs every VN they can find. It also allows you to rate VNs and tag kind of content that's in them. So as of presenting, there's over 21,000 VNs on there and over 125,000 users. So it's quite a big data set. Each individual VN also has ratings for it, so individual votes, and content tags that you can see in the middle here that tells you the kind of thing that's in it. Now, this is user voted and user generated stuff, so it's a bit unreliable, but it still allows you to get to categorize stuff quite well, as we'll see in a little bit. Okay, so what's the dangers with using this data? First off, you're relying on users here, and you know a quick check on Reddit and the arguments that go on there, and you'd lose faith in humanity that anyone can ever agree on anything ever. But actually, with a large enough crowd, it balances out, because even if you've got some trolls voting, some will vote higher, some will vote lower, and it'll if you average it all out, it balances not too badly. And it's also got quite an active moderation scene there and whatnot. So if you look at Wikipedia as an example of a well-moderated place, so it's even user-generated data can be pretty accurate. So the next problem is that while the most popular VNs have lots of tags, something like Fate's Day Night has nearly 100 content tags. More obscure, less well-known stuff isn't very well tagged at all. So that's certainly a problem. We've filtered out any VNs that have fewer than 3 ratings on it. So that's left us with 9,000 VNs to process the data with. So that's removed the most obscure stuff, but that is still a problem. And lastly, VNDB users are a self-selecting group. They aren't necessarily representative of everyone. So in my experience, the VNDB market has been traditionally more interested in the Japanese visual novel market rather than the Western one, because these are fans that who generally would join to the medium before the Western market really kicked off, and we had started getting our own homegrown VNs. However, it's still useful for seeing the change in the trends. While it may underestimate the amount of interest in Western VNs, we can still see it growing. All right, so first off, let's just do some basic look at the stats at the moment on VNDB. So this is recording the VN releases over time. So you can see here the JVM market a bit of a dive at the moment, and the EVM market's not doing great either. So pack your bags, game over. The industry is closed. But is that what the picture actually is? Because if this is the danger with data, this is what you're going to be looking a little bit closer, because if we filter it out for commercial VNs, we can see that the EVN market is actually still doing really well. What's been dropping has been all the freeware and all the fan-made ones, Nano Reno, things like that. That's been dipping a bit, but that's mainly because people are upscaling. They're going up to commercial VNs, which obviously take much more time, so they're not having time to release loads of free things. So it's a good time for, by the looks of it, for Western VN developers. And you can see that here with the fan base is still growing as well. The number of ratings on VNDB is still steadily going up. And also see the share of votes that go to EVNs compared to JVNs is also steadily going up. And keep in mind that this is underestimating the EVN market, because like the casual fans who just read a few VNs on Steam, they aren't likely to be picked up. They aren't likely to create an account on VNDB and start voting for VNs if they've only read 1 or 2 VNs. So this is likely undercounting it, but we can still see even with that taken into account, it still is steadily going up still. So look at some of the other data, some of the changes in the market over time. This is the lengths of VNs coming out. So again, we can see there's still the longest VNs are still coming out. It's the shortest ones. It's the shorter ones that are getting cut, and the medium length ones in the JVN market. And if we're looking at the EVN market, again, it's mainly the really short or fan-made VNs that's been dipping, and the larger commercial, more substantial VNs are still growing. So the market's still looking good. The fan base, what they're reading, the length of the VN that they're reading each month. So we can see here, the longest VNs are still doing well. Over 50, anything over 30 hours, there's still a good solid fan base for. And the shortest VNs, they're also growing quite well. It's likely the unknown category is what isn't categorized, and that's the most obscure VNs generally. So we could probably combine that with the less than 2 hours if I add those two together. What's really dropped down is the 10 to 30, the medium length VNs. And it seems that the VN market is pretty much dividing, it's splitting itself between those who are enjoying the shorter VNs, especially in the Western market, and those who are staying with the super long VNs. Another look at the changing market is the screen resolutions that are coming out, so the default screen resolution for each VN. So we can see here, even up until just a few years ago, 800 by 600 and whatnot. It's incredible that that's still so many VNs coming out with that. I mean, I don't even think even past the 1990s you could buy a monitor here in the West that was maxed out at that sort of resolution. So it shows sort of the difference sort of in the JVM market compared to over here. It's only been since 2014 that we finally started having high definition resolutions as the largest market coming out, which incidentally is the same year that the first 4K TVs came out in Japan, which shows you the difference between the VN market over there and the television market. It's quite astonishing. And then compared to the EVN market, we can see there was the 640 by 480 lasted a little bit longer because of all the fan-made VNs and whatnot. They were paying homage to the old 640 by 480 VNs. But we've also seen they're also adopting the highest resolutions much quicker than the JVN market is. So we're getting 1080p, gorgeous 1080p VNs. The readers are enjoying what they're rating at the moment. So we can still see, I mean, there isn't a huge surge towards high definition stuff. People are still happy to read these old resolutions, shockingly, and whatnot. 800 by 600 has only just finally been eclipsed in the last couple of months as the most commonly read resolution. And we can see here that the 1080p is starting to make a dent, but it really doesn't seem to be a massive draw for the audience yet. They don't seem to especially care for that yet. We do with the data. So because we've got the VN market is pretty diverse, and so is the fan base. There's lots of different things to enjoy in the market. There's mystery, there's porn, there's romance stories, there's porn, there's deep philosophical tales, and there's porn. But how much does the audience overlap? Are they splitting off into their own little sections and they never try the other stuff, or where is your audience coming from? So what sort of things they like? What translates? What is important to them? Is the content and what factors in the content are going to determine whether or not they buy your VN. So to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to start modeling the fandom overlap of various VNs as try and build a map of the VN market as it is. So you can picture this. Each VN is basically like a beach ball floating on a pool. So here we can see it with Katsura Shoujo, Steins Gate, and Chaos Head. It's 3 little beach balls floating in the water. Now you can imagine each of these little beach balls have a little rubber band attached to each other. And the rubber band, the strength of that rubber band is proportional to the fandom overlap. How many people are reading both Steins Gate and Chaos Head compared to how many people are reading both Katsura Shoujo and Steins Gate, for example. So because Chaos Head and Steins Gate are from the same series, there's more of a fan overlap, so there's a stronger rubber band pulling those two together. But if you've only got a traction like this, if you imagine the pond, it's just going to become a huge beach ball orgy and the horribly squeaky mass in the middle there. So we need to keep VNs apart a little bit. So each VN, as it bobs in the water, creates ripples, pushes other VNs away from it. It keeps some distance. So that means that VNs that aren't related to each other are going to get pushed far away, and it's only the VNs with a strong fan overlap that they get clustered. So this is a little example. I don't know how the animation. It starts off with all the VNs overlap clusters. So some of the here to try and you've got green for the EVN. There's a strong overlap with those, and those quickly come.
Yeah, the animation's eating up your bandwidth.
And you can see the. Oh, okay. I'll change. So we keep on running that simulation until it's reached an equilibrium point. So we finally get this massive map, which it looks a bit intimidating. How on earth do you read this? Well, don't worry about reading individual VN names here, because we aren't interested in where an individual VN lands up. We're only interested in where the clusters are and what the relationship is between the different groups. So we can try and identify what these clusters are. So we can use the VN tags on VNDB to try and categorize some of these. So if you got Yaoi in the bottom left there, so we've categorized, you can see they're all highlighted, in there's little 5 of them. Otome is in their own little cluster. Nuki, the porn stuff, is up at the top. Untranslated in the bottom right. So if we combine all those together, we get a chart here to get a rough diagram of how to of the VM market overall. So to understand how do you read this map, what does it mean? So first off, if you see a group of VNs that are really tightly clustered together, that indicates that there's a strong overlap with their fan bases and whatnot. It's something they really care about, the fans. If that genre, whatever it is, whatever's calling them together, is something that's important to them when they're choosing VNs, what they want to read. Then you can look at the proximity of each cluster to each other to give an idea of the kind of overlap, what other things do they like. Is there an overlap between Nuki and comedy stuff and whatnot, for example? And finally, the cohesion, how tightly bound is, how important that is to those users. Got that the wrong way around. Okay, well, look at this chart then. With what we just learned, we can see that the Yaoi and the Otome clusters, they're completely separate from the rest. It's almost an entirely separate community. Those that are reading these VNs generally don't read other types of VN, and vice versa. There's very little overlap. Then you've got the porn stuff at the top. That's quite scattered, but certainly those that enjoy porn seem to stick within that genre. You've got at the bottom of the plot focused area there. I don't know if you can see the mouse cursor, is the DS games, the Danganronpa, Umpa, Zero Escape series, things like that. They're all tightly clustered together, and you've got the translation on the bottom right. So, but what we care most about with this group are, of course, the Western VNs. Now we can see here they're scattered basically in a halo around the main area, which basically means that they haven't reached the mainstream adoption of the fan base yet. While people might read a specific Western VN and enjoy it, they generally don't then seek out other Western VNs specifically because of it and whatnot. There isn't a unified group of them, as you would say in the otemes. If someone likes an oteme, they'll find other otemes. People don't do that with the Western VNs by the looks of it. And its position on the halo shows that it isn't yet in the mainstream of the fandom yet. I mean, we've got Kato Shoujo in the middle. There's the one VN that really took off, Western VN. But the rest is still working our way in there yet. So I'll look at a few of the other ways we can split this up. So, for example, if we look at the female protagonist split, you can see here, obviously, there's a cluster of the otomes, and there's somewhat of a cluster in the Nokage for the Yuri stuff. So, but it's not awfully tight. So that means that generally Yuri fans aren't especially picky about their types of porn and whatnot. They'll read other types of porn, mix and match. And we can see here there's otomes randomly scattered around the plot-focused VNs. Now, this tells us something as well. It shows us that the protagonist's gender doesn't really matter that much to those who are reading these VNs for their plots, in terms of if it's a murder mystery or something like that. They don't really care about the protagonist's gender. But you'll see there's a big band there that's completely missing female protagonists, which is the romance band, basically. So once it switches to romance, it splits between, you've got your otomes in the bottom left, and then if it's a male protagonist, if it's romance stuff, they don't mix. People don't seem to like both. And the other thing is, if we look at the no sexual content stuff, there's quite a stark divide here between the two groups. So it shows that it is quite an important criteria still whether or not a VN has sexual content. It's still a big factor in people choosing what they want to read. I'll just quickly go to what happens if we try to model specifically the EVN market. There's less data here, fewer readers and whatnot, but we can start to see some clusters again here. We've got the otome market in the bottom right. This is extremely tight. This is the otome fans. News about otomes really seem to get around the community quite well. People who read otomes read a lot of otomes, whereas the rest of the more plot-focused VNs are scattered around the middle here and whatnot. There's no real loyalty between them and whatnot. I mean, people might try a bit of Christian Loves VNs, maybe try E Behinds, but they aren't specifically looking out for each other. And at the other end, at the chart on the top left here, we can see the Sakura bundle, which is more lewd VNs. Now, interestingly, the Yuri VNs, the romance ones that don't have any lewd content, they're up there with the lewd stuff, with the other Steam VNs and negligee and things like that, rather than with the otomes. So it seems people care more about the gender of the love interest than they do about the gender of the protagonist. And I think that's about me done. So just a quick warning. I mean, there's two kinds of lies, damn lies, and statistics. So there's lots of ways to interpret this data. There's lots of ways to present it. So don't take any of it too seriously. Quick thanks to 8C's and Part-Time Storia. You should check out her blog for helping the presentation. And you can check out the blog for the for additional analysis stuff. And I'll be posting high-resolution graphs and charts and maps and whatnot in the chat and on the on Tumblr. So I hope that worked out okay. And don't forget to mark off your bingo card.
Yes. All right, thank you. Questions. We have 3 minutes. I guess we can field maybe one question if someone throws something onto Discord. Otherwise, you can just field things on Discord. All right, so the question is, Tim, 720p, is it still a good resolution, or are people pissed off that it's not HD? Like, would you recommend people doing 720p today?
Well, it certainly seems to be the most popular resolution kicking off now. I mean, that's what readers are reading most of at the moment. So I'd be careful about jumping to 980p, because that doesn't seem to have, even though there are more VNs with it, there isn't necessarily a big spike in readership for that. So you're not really getting much of a boost, but certainly with 720p, I wouldn't go below that.
Cool. All right, JP, I'm going to pass you to presenter mode so you can get set up. You've got like 2 minutes to do that. So I'm going to pass it to you first. And...
This isn't wise. This isn't wise. Okay, fine.
All right. Yeah. All right. While that happens, we can probably grab one more question. All right. Here's one. So, Bunny? What's the most important, valuable piece of data that you could acquire if you were if you were able to? Like, what's the one piece of data you want?
Oh, I'd really like it more Steam data, because that would actually get actual sales instead of, because obviously piracy is a big problem in the visual novel market. And so I'd like to see how the Steam sales compare to how the fandom overall on VNDB compares.
Yeah. Does Steam Spy have an API where you can pull that? I mean,
there is some data for it. I've not played around with it yet. It's just harder to get, because I looked at Steam, but apparently the most popular VN currently on Steam is Telltale's The Walking Dead, which I don't think too many people would call a VN. So it's a little bit unreliable, the data. So I'm still going to work with that.
Well, if you have the Steam IDs, you can pull them, because from comparing it to our sales data, the actual number is going to be off, but the confidence bounds are fairly good. They're 90% bounds, but so they're fairly useful if you take the average.
Oh, that'd be great, yeah.
So,
Can I toss in a quick question before we let Bunny go?
Sure.
Have you thought about reaching out to some of the more prominent EVN developers and Sekai Project and Manga Gamer, the bigger publishers? Because I don't think they want to put out their sales numbers publicly, but for a private study, they may be more amenable to that.
Well, it's just mainly been for fun that I've been doing this statistics analysis stuff, so I'm not sure. It will be interesting. I don't know if they'd be willing to share it, because I'm not doing this for paid work or anything like that. I'm just liking to share the results, and I don't know if they want to share, even if not sharing the precise statistics, I don't know if they want to share what my conclusions were with everyone else.
Enough.
Yeah, that's a hard thing in the data industry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can discuss it. All right, it's 12:50.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bunny. You can continue chatting, and I'm going to hand it over to you, JP. It's all yours.